Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Read and Reread. I'm Angelia, and today I want to talk about the October TBR. Yes, it is time to talk about October. I know we have a week left of September, but I am a pre-planner. I keep my pages all year long and build up ideas. And so as soon as it gets within a few days, a week, 10 days, a whiff of the next month, I am bursting to talk about it. So I'm going to do that today. I am fully enjoying the last week of September and reading books from my list, and there will be a large overflow of unread books that, well, I won't necessarily read them in September because I had a really big pile of possibilities for the shorties, but never mind, we're going to talk about completely different books now. So the biggest event in October, traditionally, on BookTube is Victober, a celebration of Victorian literature. The Victorian time period coincides with the reign of Queen Victoria. And I will put the years up here because I can't remember exactly what they are, but it's a nice big time period, and there's so many classic authors and lesser known authors from this time period and so many genres to enjoy. And every year the event is hosted by booktubers. And this year there's a kind of a big group of hosts coming together, and I will include the links down in the notes to all of these fabulous people, and they've set up a really great Victober. They each have specific prompts. I'm not sure how my books fit with these prompts yet because I pre-chose the books. So I will talk about those prompts when I read the books and what I see represented in my particular selections. But take a look at the Discord they have set up and their announcement videos. There's a group read as well, which is really a lot of fun to participate in. I decided not to do it this year because I already had some rather lengthy books that I wanted to read that I own, and I would have had to purchase another book. And I decided I would try to exercise a very rare and fleeting moment of restraint and focus on what I have. So that counts as a read what you own challenge. I set the challenge and I have now accomplished it. There, now I'm done with that and I can buy books again. First of all, I have a selection in both the Endless Drama reading project and in the science fiction double feature reading project that will double dip as Victober books. And they are both nice and short as well. So I have The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde. That was first published in 1895, and I think it's going to be funny. I remember some people reading it and discussing it last year. It sounded like a lot of fun. There's this really off chance that I've read it long ago because I have a copy of Lady Windermere's Fan, and I might have read that and not The Importance of Being Earnest. I talked about this in a recent book haul with the unattractive cover, but the insides are really good for old lady style reading. So that's why I purchased it. And so I'm looking forward to this one a lot. I really tried to balance this month because there are some chonky chonksters with some shorter books or lighter in nature books. I made a special effort not to just bog down with dense or thick. So I think that it's going to be a lighter in spirit month overall. Maybe not in each particular selection, but in an overall sense. So this is one of those. The other one that is also short, that'll be part of the science fiction double feature and also for Victober, is The Time Machine by H.G. Wells, a science fiction classic that I have never read. And it is quite short. It's more of a novella. My library, surprisingly, just my little local branch, had about 6 or 8 copies of The Time Machine. So maybe it was a school requirement at some point and they ended up with extra copies. But I had a choice. I was able to go through several and pick one with a style and font to my liking. This also was published in 1895, and I'll share more information about it when I get to the reading of it, because I don't know a whole lot about H.G. Wells. I'm more familiar with his work, the motifs, the basic plots, adaptations, than actually reading the books. So this will be an interesting little mini adventure. I do know that one of the prompts is about reading a fantasy, and this is a science fiction, so I think that would fit. I think it is Royce challenge. So that's one challenge that I did notice. So I thought, oh wait, one of my books fits in. Then I have two kind of long novels, but I really, really want to read these. So I'm really prioritizing. I'm thinking if I can just have one of these running maybe the first half of the month and the other one the second half, and then I can read all these other books alongside. That's kind of the plan. So the first one is Dr. Thorne by Anthony Trollope. I am on a slow journey to read the Barchester Chronicles. I have read the first two books, love them both, and this is number 3. And I'm also on this quest to get all the books that match in this edition, but it's an edition that came out about 10 years ago, so it's been kind of tricky to find copies, but I did manage to score Dr. Thorne. All of these stories so far have taken place in the same little township, although and some characters have reappeared and the new characters are added, and I think that there is a description of this plot in here. Let's see. I forgot to give a synopsis of the previous books. I don't have one for The Importance of Being Earnest. I have no idea. And The Time Machine is about a guy who builds a time machine. So, Dr. Thorne recounts the story of the son of a bankrupt landowner, Frank Gresham, who is intent on marrying his beloved Mary Thorne despite her illegitimacy and apparent poverty. Frank's ambitious mother and haughty aunt are set against the match. There's always somebody like that in these stories. However, and they push him to make a good marriage to a wealthy heiress. Only Mary's loving uncle, Dr. Thorne, knows of the fortune she is about to inherit, but believes she should be accepted on her own terms. Okay, does that not sound good and classic and fabulous? I cannot wait to just immerse in this one. And then my other rather long, involved Victorian novel is a reread. I have been meaning to reread this book for years and years. I read it back in the 80s. I love this author, and in fact, I named my dog after this author, Wilkie Collins, and this is No Name. And I have put this book, ever since I've been on BookTube, I have brought this book out for Victober and failed to read it. But now I feel like I really do need to attend to this, especially if I'm going to pull out this unusual name and give it to a doggie who is sitting right behind me like a good boy. It's about, I think it's a pair of sisters. It might only be one woman. Maybe, I don't know. There's a woman or there's two women. The parents die, and the inheritance that they think they will be receiving from their father, they actually have no legal claim to it because they are illegitimate. They did not know that their parents were not married. And so it is definitely a novel of questioning societal rules and laws and assumptions and practices. There's a lot of twists and turns. Here's a little part of the description. Although the book attacks the question of illegitimacy and the law, No Name ultimately centers on the adventures, schemes, disguises, and intrigues of Magdalene Vanstone. Believing she has been cheated out of what is rightfully hers and vowing vengeance, this young and beautiful woman will literally stop at almost nothing to regain the inheritance her father promised her. She begins alone, utterly defenseless, without resources, and facing considerable legal and family opposition, evading the police with the help of Captain Rag, impersonating others, assuming a false name and character, disappearing when necessary. Magdalene relentlessly pursues her goal, never acknowledging defeat. So I am really looking forward to this heroine. I swear there's a sister, but I'll find out when I start reading. And it is very long, and the print's kind of small, so send good wishes for my eyeballs when I'm reading No Name. That is my Victorian plan. So in Endless Drama, the other book for this month, don't worry, it's only one book out of this collection. It's the play Loot by Joe Orton, and there are 6 or 7 plays in this collection, so it's actually quite short. And I really think this is a reread, but memory fails me on what it's about. So I'll find out as I'm pretty sure I read Loot, and I think I read Entertaining Mr. Sloan. way back in the day. And I remember, why don't I have this book anymore? I read the biography, Prick Up Your Ears, and saw that movie back in the 80s. And somehow I no longer have possession of this. And it's one of those things where I guess at some point I thought, well, I'm not interested in that anymore. And now I'm in a new chapter of being interested. So I wish it was still around, but alas, it is gone. So I have to refresh my knowledge of Joe Orton when I read this play. I know the play's from the 60s. I think it's kind of a farce. It might have to do with a bungled burglary, and I will share more about it when we get to it. I will launch a one-woman revival of Joe Orton this month. And then, let's see. Oh, and then the other science fiction book in that project this month, I chose one. It's kind of long, but I think it's on the light side, and it is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. Ever since I read the Monk and Robot books, which I really, really enjoyed, I wanted to try this series. I can't remember how many books are in this series, 4 or 6, and this is the first one. And it is a little thick, but word has it, it has great characters. It's about a mission in space, which that always kind of gives me pause, because I think, oh, is it going to be like tedious and boring and just like tons and tons of details about the spaceship and but apparently no, it's supposed to be really good, have some humor, fantastic characters. Here's the description. When Rosemary Harper joins the crew of the Wayfarer, she isn't expecting much. The patched-up ship has seen better days, but it offers her everything she could possibly want: a spot to call home, a chance to explore the far-off corners of the galaxy, and some distance from her past. And nothing could be farther from what she has known than the crew of the Wayfarer. From Sussex, the exotic reptilian pilot, to Kizzy and Jenks, the chatty engineers who keep the ship running, to the noble Captain Ashby, life aboard is chaotic and crazy, exactly what Rosemary wants. That is, until the crew is offered the job of a lifetime, tunneling wormholes through space to a distant planet. Sure, they'll earn enough money to live comfortably for years, but risking her life wasn't part of the job description. So there's an adventure, a bunch of characters, maybe it's a found family. I don't really want to know too much more about it. I'm going to let it be a surprise, but I've heard so many good reviews in advance that I am ready. I have a couple of buddy reads on deck this month as well. I'll be reading The Magician's I keep wanting to say The Magician's Nephew. That's part of the Narnia Chronicles. This is The Magician's Elephant. Whole different beast. It's by Kate DiCamillo. It's part of a slow and gradual project that my friend Michael and I are conducting, reading all of the books of Kate DiCamillo in roughly publication order. This one was published in 2009, and this one I think is kind of on the fantasy side. When a fortune teller's tent appears in the market square of the city of Baltis, orphan Peter Augustus Duchesne knows the questions he needs to ask. Does his sister still live, and if so, can he find her? The fortune teller's mysterious answer, an elephant? An elephant will lead him there, sets off a chain of events so remarkable, so impossible, that Peter can hardly dare to believe it. But it is, all of it, true. She has a strand of writing where some of her books are almost like fables or new fairy tales, and it seems like this one's going to fall into that camp. She's so versatile. She can write kind of absurd humor. She can write realistic, really poignant books. She can do fantasy. They're mainly for middle grade readers. Some of them are for younger, but usually the novels are for middle grade. But they're all, I mean, I haven't detected a dud yet. They're all just really excellent. So we're going to read this one or reread it. I don't think I've read this one before, so I don't think this is a reread for me. I don't think I've ever actually read this, even though I know I had it in my school library when I was a librarian. So that's one of the things. You can be so busy that your favorite authors, you just haven't read so many of their works, especially some of these really prolific authors. And Kate DiCamillo would be an example. I've never been disappointed by something I've read by her, but there's a lot I haven't read. In this month, September, I read On the Calculation of Volume 1 by Solvej, Balle, and translated by Barbara Haveland. And it was a buddy read with my friend Louise. And we are going to read number 2 in October. So continuing this series, and I can't really tell you a whole lot about what I expect from this book without it being a spoiler, but the series is about a woman named Tara Salter who gets stuck on November 18th and lives that day over and over and over again. She sees the people around her go through the same motions that they did on that day, not realizing anything's unusual, and she's the only one who sees it and could do variations to try to break out of this loop. So that's what the series is about plot-wise, but it gets into a lot of other themes. So we're going to move on to book 2. October is also traditionally spooky season, and it's a good time to read something kind of weird or creepy or a horror book or something in that vein. And for that, I have a couple of selections. One of them is a reread of We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. I read it a couple of years ago, and I really want to read it again. I think this is a buddy read with Michael. I don't think, did I confirm that? I can't remember. And it's a novella. This is a collection of her short novels and short stories. It is about a young woman who lives with her family, or what's left of them, in a dilapidating house. We find out gradually what's going on in this house, why she is often ostracized by the townspeople, and just the strange circumstances within this family. Can't give too much away. It's a wonderful book to read going in knowing virtually nothing except that Shirley Jackson, her stories are always unsettling, strange, but in very rewarding ways. And I want to read it again, even though I know stuff and how things turned out. I want to read it again and just experience it once more. The other 2 books I have pulled to consider. I don't know if I'll get to both of these, but this is what I have been thinking about that really fits this theme. One of them is Model Home by Rivers Solomon, and this one I have heard several really strong reviews. It's also has a Kirkus star, which I place some stock in, and if you look closely, there's some creepy stuff going on here. There's flames and a spider and an eyeball on the cover. I really love this cover. I read another book by Rivers Solomon. It was called The Deep. It was a fantasy about an underwater society who have evolved from people that were thrown off of slave ships. Really unusual, really strange atmosphere. This one has a more contemporary and realistic setting, but then I think supernatural elements. It's a haunted house story. The 3 Maxwell siblings have kept their distance from the lily-white gated enclave outside Dallas where they grew up. It wasn't being the only black kids in the neighborhood that pushed the children to flee, but rather the strange and inexplicable things that began to happen in the house as soon as they moved in. Was it some cosmic trial, a demonic rite of passage into the upper class? Whatever it was, the Maxwells, steered by their formidable mother, stayed put, unwilling to abandon their home, terrors and trauma be damned. As adults, the siblings finally got away from the horrors of home, leaving their parents alone in the house. But when news of their parents' death arrives, Esri is forced to return to Texas with their sisters, Eve and Emmanuel, to reckon with the family's past and present and to find out what happened while they were away. So, creepy haunted house vibes. So that's 2 weird houses that I'm thinking about reading about. We Have Always Lived in the Castle is not a haunted house story. It's more psychologically scary, but this one sounds like it's more supernatural. Maybe. We'll find out. And then also, I got a brand new book. You haven't seen it because I haven't done a haul since I got it, but it is Dan Chaon's new book, One of Us. If you've been around for a while, you know I am a enormous Dan Chaon fan. I think he is one of the great underrated American authors writing today. His books are weird and hard to categorize. Sometimes they are kind of psychological thrillers. Sometimes it's kind of a mystery with an intricate plotting. Sometimes it's kind of horror. The last one was sort of speculative. This one is described as literary horror. And if you see a circus tent, yes, you do see a circus tent. And this is a book, if I picked this book up and I'd never heard this author and I read this description, I would think, well, that just sounds really weird. But I am trusting Dan Chaon to deliver. Yes, another Kirkus star as well. From a master of literary horror, a playfully macabre and utterly thrilling tale about orphan twins on the run from their murderous uncle who find refuge in a traveling carnival. It's 1915, there's a pair of twins, they can read each other's minds, the mother dies, bad uncle, they get away, they're taken in by a traveling circus that has what was called back at that time a freak show. They travel by train across the vast and sometimes brutal American frontier with their new family, watching as the exhibitions spark amazement wherever they go. There's Minnie, the three-legged lady, Dr. Shui, who stands over 7 feet tall, Thistlebritches, the clown with no nose, and Rosalie, who can foretell the death of anyone she meets. So it sounds like an adventure, it sounds bizarre, and the title is, I know the title comes from the movie Freaks, which I'll put up what year that movie came out, but it is about people in a sideshow and a revolt. I just am so psyched to read this. And it happened again. I got this book before the publication date. My local bookstore has repeatedly put books out at the wrong time, either early or late. They get their Tuesdays wrong, and I have gotten books. Of course, this has happened to me recently on pre-orders too, a couple times, where I have gotten a book ahead of the date. I don't know what it is. I don't win lottos and other kinds of drawings and prizes, but somehow I score books that weren't supposed to be out yet. It's out now. I think yesterday was its real date, but I got it like a week or two ago. It was just sitting out on the table at Barnes & Noble. So now it is mine, and I can't wait to read it. So I make a special effort to read at least one nonfiction book every month, and the one I have picked out for this month of October, I'm keeping it on the light side again, a concerted effort to pick lighter material this month. And I have chosen I Remember Nothing by Nora Ephron, a collection of essays. This book was a gift from my friend Michael, who also gave me I Feel Bad About My Neck, which I really loved earlier this year. And so I decided this would be a great time to read these essays and get a laugh. And I will report to you about the joys of this Nora Ephron collection when I get to it. But this also, because they are separate essays, this will be an easy one to dip in and out of while reading some of these longer books. So I think this is the perfect time to throw in some Nora Ephron. Most of these books are not going to be on the particular deep, dark side. The Dan Chaon book might, but usually there's an element of hope in his fiction as well. But it's kind of a setup to read some less dire material in this kind of dire time. So this is part of that plan. And then finally, I want to get back to reading some poetry. I kind of focused on short fiction in September because I had my 30 stories going. And I had this grandiose plan that I was also going to read additional stories every day. That didn't really happen. Part of it was just overshooting, and part of it was just times being adjusted to fit in a lot of dog nonsense that I didn't know when I made the September TBR. But now it's time to get back to incorporating some poetry. And the first one I want to address is Terror Counter by Fargo, Nissim, Tbakhi. This book is currently on the NBA long list for poetry, National Book Award. And Deep Vellum Press sent this to me in my subscription last month. And 2 of their books actually made it onto the National Book Award long list. One of their fiction books is on it as well. I think it's called, what is it called? North Sun? Something? I'll put a picture of it up here. It has to do with whaling or something. And anyway, I thought that was pretty cool that this small little press in Dallas got 2 books onto the National Book Award long list. So Terror Counter is by a Palestinian American poet and performance artist. and I am going to be reading that throughout the month. And if I finish it, I'll move on to some other poetry and tell you about that as well. I think that's about it. There might be, I think this is going to keep me really busy. I do have a lot of September overflow and a few random things that I'm interested in reading. And so I will tell you about those along the way when they pop up, because I do go off script and go rogue and read things that weren't in the plan pretty often, at least once or twice every month. So you'll just have to wait and see what those ones are. But that is my official plan. And so let me know what you think about these books, these authors, what you're going to read instead. What have you picked out for Victober? Have you picked out anything scary? What's going on? And I hope that your September reading has been as delightful as mine. I will be back to talk to you soon on Friday and kind of talk about what I have been reading in the home stretch of September. So take care and have a great week. Bonus footage of a really good boy who sat here so nice and quietly while I was filming. What a good dog. Oh, he heard the back door open. Catch you later.